This is Nightline, and I'm Sabrina Zainal. The headlines. MACC to focus on big-scale corruption cases, says PM. Also, MACC calls in ex-minister over Pandora Papers. Good morning. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim left for Turkey on Tuesday night to render his support and solidarity to the people affected by the recent earthquake disaster in the country. For more details, we have with us our reporter, Miza Shafiza Muhammad Fuad, who is currently at the Kuala Lumpur International Airport, KLIA. Hi, Miza, can you tell us more about the visit?
Thank you, Sabrina. The Prime Minister has just left for Turkey on a special aircraft which took off from the Bunga Raya complex here in KLIA at 11 p.m. This after Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan had personally requested for the Prime Minister's presence in the country when he received calls from the leader. Datuk Seri Anwar is accompanied by Foreign Minister Datuk Seri Zamri Abdul Kadir and Minister in the Prime Minister's Department for Sabah Sarawak Affairs and Special Functions, Datuk Amizan Muhammad Ali, for the one-day visit to Turkey. The Prime Minister is expected to arrive in Gaziantep at 7:30 a.m. local time, where he will see for himself the areas devastated by the earthquake and meet the members of the Malaysian Special Search and Rescue Team, SMART, who are deployed to assist in the search and rescue operation. He will then head to Ankara to meet with Erdogan to extend his moral support before returning to Malaysia later in the evening on Wednesday. Now, earlier in the Dewan Rakyat, Datuk Seri Anwar revealed that Malaysia had successfully collected some 20 million ringgit in humanitarian aid to help earthquake victims in Turkey and Syria. The contribution included $1 million each from the Malaysian government and the Sultan of Johor, with the remaining donations from various parties, including local companies. Malaysia was among the first countries to send humanitarian aid and personnel to assist in the rescue efforts after a large earthquake hit southern Turkey and northwestern Syria on Monday and claimed tens of thousands of lives. The assistants include 2 SMART teams as well as members of the Malaysian Armed Forces, which has set up a field hospital in Turkey. I guess that's all from me from KLIA. Back to Sabrina in the studio.
Thank you so much, Misa, for those updates. Now, the government has established a special team to get a real picture and make an assessment regarding the form of humanitarian aid needed in Syria, which was also hit by the earthquake disaster last week. Wisma Putra said the team will build a communication network with the authorities in Syria to assess a safe route for humanitarian aid delivery missions. In a statement on Tuesday, Wisma Putra said the reconnaissance team was led by the Foreign Ministry's Deputy Secretary General of Bilateral Relations and joined by representatives from the National Disaster Management Agency, NADMA, the Health Ministry, Police, Malaysian Armed Forces, and also the Red Crescent Society and Mercy Malaysia. According to the statement, the establishment of the team was a follow-up to the discussion held between the Secretariat for the Distribution of Humanitarian Aid to Syria, managed by the Foreign Ministry, and the Syrian Embassy in Kuala Lumpur on Monday. Critical and essential basic needs for the earthquake victims in Syria include food supplies, medicine, and medical equipment, including emergency aid kits. Meanwhile, as hopes of finding people alive under the debris fade more than a week after the devastating earthquake, the focus has switched to providing food and shelter to the vast numbers of survivors. According to the Turkish government, about 1.2 million people have been housed in student residences, more than 206,000 tents have been erected, and 400,000 victims were evacuated from the devastated areas. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, however, said that more than 8,000 people have been pulled out alive from the rubble on Tuesday. It was reported that 2 women were among at least 5 survivors rescued from the rubble in the southern city of Hatay, some 204 hours after the quake hit the region. So far, the combined death toll in Turkey and Syria has exceeded 37,000. At the same time, the first United Nations delegation to visit rebel-held northwestern Syria crossed over from Turkey on Tuesday as anger simmers at the world body's slow response. The Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission, MACC, is now more aggressive and will focus its efforts to curb big-scale corruption cases to save the people's money. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim said the MACC's main focus currently was to carry out effective investigations and preventions while increasing the public's confidence in the government's efforts to fight corruption.
Kerana kalau dulu terlalu banyak masa dan tenaga untuk menumpukan perhatian, menangkap ikan-ikan bilis. Dan ini tidak akan banyak membantu kerana rasuah sudah merupakan satu hal yang sistemik.
The Prime Minister said this when replying to a question by Tawau MP Loh Swee Fui during the Dewan Rakyat sitting on Tuesday on the government's strategy to ensure investigation of corruption cases has real impact and effect. Datuk Seri Anwar also said that among the large-scale cases being investigated is the 3.3 billion ringgit Sabah Water Department scandal in 2016, which is still ongoing in court. Another example is the electricity theft involving Bitcoin mining between 2018 and 2021, which caused 2.3 billion ringgit in losses. Datuk Seri Anwar added that the government is also in the midst of studying the provisions in relevant laws to enhance protection for whistleblowers who report on corruption and misconduct cases. This is because many whistleblowers, including civil servants, may feel insecure and unsafe to report such cases due to pressure. In the meantime, Datuk Seri Anwar said the government has no plans to reinstate the Goods and Services Tax, GST, or introduce any other broad-based consumption tax as a means of addressing the national debt issue. The Prime Minister pointed out that the government will also tighten spending through subsidy reduction for the wealthy.
Seperti mana saya jelaskan di Dewan ini dalam sesi yang lalu, walaupun ada keputusan kerajaan sebelum ini untuk menaikkan tarif elektrik, kerajaan sekarang telah membatalkan cadangan itu dan mengenakan hanya kepada golongan T20 iaitu MNCs dan syarikat besar, melainkan syarikat yang melibatkan diri dalam isu food security.
Datuk Seri Anwar, who is also Finance Minister, said other measures will be taken in the effort to reduce expenditures and settle the government's liabilities and debt worth 1.5 trillion ringgit, which is equivalent to 82% of the country's gross domestic product, GDP. In addition, he said that the government will strengthen the administrative positions in view of billions of ringgit being lost due to weak administration and leakages. He also told the Dewan Rakyat, due to the national debt being higher than the country's growth, other measures need to be taken, including ensuring the revenue base is expanded and reviewing the public expenditure method without burdening the people, especially in the areas of education, health and basic needs. He added that he will consider all these matters when tabling the revised 2023 budget on February 24th. A former finance minister is currently being investigated by the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission, MACC, in connection with the Pandora Papers, which revealed the storage of assets worth hundreds of billions of ringgit abroad. It was learnt that the former minister in question has been interrogated at the MACC headquarters in Putrajaya. Now, it was informed that the current investigation is aimed at the extraordinary wealth owned by several individuals, including former ministers and other dignitaries and their families, in addition to their links with offshore companies abroad. The MACC was also investigating the possibility of financial links owned as a result of government tenders and projects. TV3 is still trying to obtain confirmation from the Commission on the report. Previously, as stated in the Pandora Papers, about 12 Malaysians, including 4 politicians, were among dozens of heads of states, government officials and rulers from around the world who were found to be using offshore tax havens to hide assets worth hundreds of millions of dollars over the past 25 years. In other news, the MACC is currently in the process of summoning several witnesses to give their statements in relation to its probe into several bank accounts belonging to a political party. Its Chief Commissioner, Tan Sri Azam Baki, said the investigation is still ongoing. In a statement to Nightline on Tuesday night, he said that he hoped the public will give space for the MACC to investigate and not speculate about the case. He also said that the graft buster will conduct the investigation transparently and professionally, without fear or favor. Earlier, the New Straits Times, which quoted a source from the MACC, reported that the commission is expected to call up Bersatu President Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin in the near future as part of its ongoing probe into his party's finances. Now, the source confirmed that the former Prime Minister will be called in to have his statement recorded over the alleged 300 million ringgit that his party was said to have received as political funds from contractors that were awarded projects under his administration. The government has no plans for a targeted abolition of National Higher Education Fund Corporation (PTPTN) loans for borrowers from the B40 category. Higher Education Minister Datuk Sri Muhammad Khalid Nordin said several policies have already been implemented to ease loan repayments.
Cadangan pemansuhan pinjaman PTPTN bersasar kepada golongan miskin dan isi rumah B40 akan melibatkan seramai 1.84 juta peminjam dengan jumlah pemansuhan pelupusan sebanyak 42.34 bilion ringgit. Walau bagaimanapun, kerajaan sentiasa prihatin dan memberi perhatian kepada kebajikan peminjam PTPTN dan kemudahan membayar balik pinjaman.
Datuk Sri Muhammad Khalid said this when responding to a question on the matter from Machang MP, Wan Ahmad Faisal Wan Ahmad Kamal in the Dewan Rakyat on Tuesday. He added among the policies introduced by PTPTN to ease loan repayments include allowing postponements if the borrower is pursuing further studies or is unemployed, restructuring loan repayments based on the borrower's financial capabilities, and providing discounts if the loan is paid in full. Loan repayments also only begin 12 months after the borrowers have completed their higher studies to give them time to earn a stable income. Although the 2022 gross domestic product (GDP) growth may be encouraging, Malaysia is still lagging behind neighbouring countries. Former Second Finance Minister Datuk Sri Johari Abdul Ghani said slower growth, coupled with the impact of a predicted global economy slowdown on the country's trade, would result in reduced household incomes. During the debate on the Yang di-Pertuan Agong's address in the Dewan Rakyat, Datuk Sri Johari warned that incomes would not be able to keep pace with the rising cost of living.
Tapi yang membimbangkan saya ialah apabila tiba kuarter 4. Kuarter 4 ini kita lihat perkembangan ekonomi kita ini sudah jadi negatif. That quarter minus 2.6. Jadi secara keseluruhannya, tren yang menurun ini 38%, 3.5% suku kuarter kedua, suku kuarter ketiga 1.9%, dan suku kuarter keempat negatif 26%. Ini menunjukkan tren yang sungguh membimbangkan apabila kita melihat ekonomi ke hadapan.
Datuk Sri Johari, who was also Titiwangsa MP, also stated that the country's economy grew 8.7% in 2022 due to the low base effect of 2021. He also expressed concern given the World Bank's forecast that Malaysia's economy would only grow by 4% this year and 3.9% next year, which was still lower than the pre-pandemic average of 5% annually. On the other hand, the World Bank's forecasts for Indonesia, the Philippines, and Vietnam were higher at between 4.8% and 6.5%. Moving on, the operating license of Lynas Rare Earths Limited in Malaysia has been renewed for 3 years, effective March 3rd. The license was renewed with no change to its conditions, meaning the Australian rare earths miner will be prohibited from carrying out any activities that produce radioactive waste in Malaysia after July this year. In a tweet on Tuesday, Science, Technology and Innovation Minister Chung Lee-kang said Lynas has been informed of the decision by the Atomic Energy Licensing Board, AELB, whereby its request to drop 4 conditions for the company's license renewal was not considered. Among the conditions was requiring the company, which has a processing plant in Gebang Pahang, to ensure that a cracking and leaching plant outside Malaysia would be in operation before July 2023. Lynas was also expected to set up a permanent disposal facility to store its water leach purification residue and would no longer be allowed to import raw materials containing radioactive material into Malaysia after that period. When we come back, at least 3 dead and 5 wounded in U.S. campus mass shooting. Stay with us.
The 2023 budget, overcoming the cost of living issue, what is the strategy? Boosting Malaysians' welfare and quality of life, what does it take? Rebalancing spending and revenue to counter debt and liabilities. And what reforms can the Malaysia Madani concept offer? Economist Professor Jeffrey Williams shares his thoughts on money matters this Saturday at 5 p.m. only on TV3.
With the foreign front. In the U.S., a gunman who killed at least 3 people and wounded 5 others at Michigan State University shot himself dead on Monday after a massive police manhunt. Now, according to authorities, after shots were fired in the campus building in the early evening, leaving 2 dead, thousands of students at the university were ordered to shelter in place. The gunman then fled to the Students' Union, where he killed 1 more person, sparking a major police operation as officers swarmed the 5,000-acre campus. Just after midnight, police confirmed the suspect had shot himself dead a short distance away. Police refused to give details of the victims and the shooter, including whether they were related to the university in any way. Gun violence is alarmingly common in the United States, a country where there are more guns than people and where attempts to clamp down on their spread are always met with stiff resistance. Taiwan announced that it will reopen its borders to Hong Kong and Macau residents starting from next week as part of a further easing of its COVID-19 prevention measures. Taiwan's Mainland Affairs Council, in a statement on Tuesday, said Hong Kong and Macau citizens will be allowed to apply for visitor visas from February 20th as the government scraps entry restrictions imposed due to COVID-19. However, the restrictions on visitors from mainland China will remain in place as the COVID situation in the country is still unclear. Previously, Taiwan had started to allow tour groups from Hong Kong and Macau to apply to enter Taiwan in November last year as COVID-19 eased, but independent tourists were still barred from entry. sports now. Ferrari have officially unveiled the car that they hope will be fast enough to challenge for the 2023 F1 Drivers and Constructors Championship at the Maranello base in Italy on Tuesday. Drivers Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz also got their first look at the SF23. Sainz said the team was moving forward and would definitely be in the running for the drivers and constructors titles this year. The new season begins on 5th March in Bahrain. Last year, Leclerc and Sainz led a Ferrari 1-2 at the Sakhir circuit. Leclerc added a second place in Saudi Arabia and won again in Australia before eventual champion Max Verstappen took 5 out of the next 6 races and pulled away in the championship race. Verstappen topped the podium a record 15 times over the course of the season to win the driver's title by 454 points to Leclerc's 308. On to tennis. Stan Wawrinka claimed a hard-fought 7-6, 6-4 victory over Kazakhstan's Alexander Bublik in the first round of the Rotterdam Open on Monday. The 3-time Grand Slam champion felt it was his best performance since returning from a foot injury 10 months ago. The 37-year-old was sidelined for more than a year due to that injury and had struggled to regain his form. But Wawrinka, who's currently 130th in the world, feels his fitness is back at a level where he can compete once again. The Swiss player will face Richard Gasquet in the next round. Elsewhere, France's Grégoire Barrère stunned Belgian David Goffin, winning 6-love, 7-6 in 85 minutes. Three killed in crash on Seremban PD Highway. This and more after this short break. Welcome back. 3 individuals, including a secondary school student, were killed and 4 others injured in a road crash involving 2 vehicles at kilometer 20.8 of the Seremban Port Dickson Expressway, heading towards Teluk Kemang, Port Dickson. Port Dickson Police Chief Superintendent Aidi Shah Muhammad said the crash, which occurred at about 1:30 p.m., involved a car with 6 people aged between 16 and 51 and a 4-wheel drive with a 45-year-old man at the wheel. He said those killed in the crash were passengers in the car, identified as R. Mogana, 35, M. Pangajavali, 51, and her son, S. Jagannath, 16. They were trapped in the rear seat and died at the scene. He said the injured were car driver and Mogana's husband, S. Shanmugam, 33, S. Thibankumar, 23, and his fiancée, L. Vinisha, 23. All of them from Ampang, Selangor, were on their way to Port Dickson when a 4-wheel drive crashed into its rear. The driver of the 4-wheel drive, who tested negative for drugs and alcohol, was slightly injured and was detained for further investigation. The Royal Malaysia Police, PDRM, will assist the Thai authorities in the investigation into a case where a Malaysian man was seriously injured, believed to have been shot by an unknown assailant in Yala Province, southern Thailand on Saturday. Bangkalan Hulu Police Chief DSP Zulkifli Ibrahim said the 55-year-old man, who suffered injuries to his stomach and thigh, is currently in stable condition. In a statement on Tuesday, Zulkifli said the victim was riding a motorcycle when he was shot 3 times by the suspect in front of a convenience store at Chantarotai Road in Betong town. He also stated that the suspect, believed to be a Thai national, was on the run and is still being tracked down by the police. The case is being investigated by the Thai police to determine the motive behind the attack, whether it was a personal dispute or business-related. It was reported that the victim has been traveling to and from Betong for years, as he has a Thai national wife and he used to run an entertainment business in Betong town. Meanwhile, Betong Police Chief Sanya Thongsawat said that the suspect has been identified as a former business partner of the victim and is currently working as a tour guide for Malaysians. As we wrap up Nightline tonight, let's take a peek at the latest action movie, Coast Guard Malaysia Ops Hilang, playing in 144 theatres across Malaysia, Brunei and Singapore. I'm Sabrina Zainal. Thank you for watching and have a great week ahead.